If you qualify for hazard pay, will your employer apply for you? And if they don't, what can you do to ensure you get that $10,000? Hey everybody, this is LALATE, and thanks for joining us for a second stimulus check and stimulus package update today about hazard pay, that $10,000 from the U.S. government that would come to you under the HEROES Act with great news that we never saw until today, and you're never going to hear it anywhere except with this channel. There's great news about the expansion of the definition of essential workers under the hazard pay bill so that more people get that $10,000. Let me get right to it. You know, over the last couple of days, I've gone over the definition of essential workers and who qualifies for the $10,000 under hazard pay. Hazard pay is a bill. It's a bill reduced in the part of the HEROES Act. It's called the HEROES Fund. It's currently in the Senate. It's written by Democrats in the House. And it calls for $10,000 to be delivered to essential workers in a lump sum. What the viewers and I of this channel have been deeply perplexed about is who are the essential workers in these gray areas? Well, great news finally has come out. Great news that mainly comes in the form of a congressional document that LALATE has obtained that suggests that Congress wants the employer and the employee to expand the definition wherever possible. So let me get right to what's going on here. As you know, over the last couple of days, I've gone over who is defined as essential worker under the hazard pay bill. It actually says that the bill will define essential workers. I've explained that states and local cities sometimes have their own definition of essential workers, but the bill proposes to have its separate definition of essential workers. It sounds good, but it goes off the tracks in one regard. The regard is the gray area. There's some businesses in there that are just really not clearly defined. Others are clearly defined. Here's an example. What's clearly defined are grocery stores. What's clearly defined are pharmacies. What's not clearly defined are big box retailers that have pharmacies in them and have groceries in them, but aren't grocery stores and aren't pharmacies. Examples are Walmart, Costco, Walgreens, CVS, Rite Aid. All those type of businesses could essentially qualify for essential pay if someone had written the bill a little bit clearer. And when I've been answering viewers' questions was, hey, they asked me, I worked at Walmart, am I an essential worker? I'm like, well, it's gray. It's not clearly defined. Well, here comes the great news. Finally, the great news. It comes in a congressional document that LALATE has obtained today. And the document says that ultimately, Congress did not intend the bill to be limiting as to who are essential workers, but wants the discussion to continue between the employers and the employees, and especially members of Congress. It basically says that, hey, we don't want to push people out the door because we didn't write something the right way. We didn't draft it the right way. We want it to be more encompassing, not narrowly drafted. This can't be any better news than I've heard in a while about essential pay. So let's get right to where this wording comes. It comes under additional background and commentary from members of Congress. This is a congressional document I'm reading from. It says the essential frontline worker definitions. As mentioned above, the definition of essential frontline workers for purposes of both the premium pay increase, that's the $13 per hour, and the recruitment retention incentive, that's the one that talks about getting more people to work going forward, will be the subject of debate. The proposal, this is the important part, so listen carefully right here. The proposal is not meant to exclude any worker from this conversation. Wow, that is great news. Rather, we hope that this proposal will encourage a discussion about how large and diverse this universe of workers truly is. Really, really great, inspiring news. Our goal is to make federal, state, tribal, local, and private sector essential workers that are at risk eligible for this benefit. So we got a lot from there that is so great, and let me go over it. First, it shows the mindset. The mindset is to cover more people and not to exclude people. The second mindset is that more people might be in this definition, and that they freely admit that maybe their choice of wording may be bad. They don't want to say this is the end all and be all, that the definitions may be a little bit broader than this. Please don't kick people out the door. There's a broader universe than just a few words. Really great. Finally, it says, hey, if you need more clarity, let's use this issue of clarity, that anyone's at risk will get the benefit. That is, I mean, no one wants to be at risk, first of all. But the fact that they are making that so clear is great news. Why? Because if you think about it, if someone goes up to the pharmacy in CVS and places an order, and the pharmacist is working behind the counter and helping you in the pharmacy of CVS, the person at the front desk who's working the cash register to help you buy, dental floss and toothpaste is as much at risk as the pharmacist just 10 feet away. The person who is working the grocery store in Rouse or Albertsons or Safeway at the cash register and is doing your transaction for milk and eggs is as much at risk as the person who's selling you milk and eggs at CVS or Walgreens or Walmart or Costco. So it says, hey, don't focus so much on the product. Don't focus so much on the business. Focus on the risk. So that's really great news. I would not certainly miss mentioning what I'm about to say right now in any regard. So I'm going to say it right now. The purpose of hazard pay is even more important now based upon an announcement minutes ago. Minutes ago, State California's governor, Gavin Newsom, the governor of California, announced a broad, sweeping lockdown of virtually most major parts of his state. California is basically ostensibly back on the lockdown it was on back in March. That lockdown, I'm not going to go into detail about it right here because I'm going to do it in the PUA and unemployment benefits video, which is so important. But it basically covers 30 counties. And it basically says anyone that's in a non-critical office place, anyone that's in a mall, sorry, you're closed. So what's important to understand is essential workers will be even more essential starting today in California. They will be working in a hazard environment starting today, well, continuing today, if they hadn't been already. The hazardous situation, which is the at risk, is the number of COVID-19 cases, 16,000 in the state of California in one day, 16,000 per day in the state of Florida. That's the at risk. So what's important for you to understand is that in me reporting to you hazard pay, I don't want you to feel defeated or negative because the dentists got themselves so clearly defined in the bill, and that my security guards did not get themselves so defined in the bill. It's sort of like the dental union lobbied to get their words right in there, and the security guard union lobbyists didn't get their words right in the bill correctly. Don't worry, because ultimately the focus has been, and the motive and the mindset and the purpose of the bill is clearly defined here. The authority has been used over the many times over the last few years to pay for personnel costs associated with enforcing curfews, facilitating evacuation routes, and restoring critical infrastructure. Past usage like this illustrates precedent for federal funding for critical state, local, tribal employees performing essential response functions that keep our communities safe in times of disaster. Very well said. So they're basically saying that, hey, we've done this before. Don't act like we've never paid hazard pay before. We've done this over the history of this country. In cases of disaster, we provide additional benefits to people who put themselves at risk. And by giving them $13 additional per hour is not a lot of sum of money. If you're new to this channel, thank you for subscribing. Let me go over with you the calculations of hazard pay once again. Hazard pay is a bill that would pay you retroactively for any week that you worked starting in January up to the present going forward. It would pay you $13 an hour on top of what you would normally get paid. The calculation is relatively simple. This is how you calculate it. You look at how many hours you worked as an essential worker from January forward. And at this point, I guess the date is not stopping. So any date forward, you calculate the number of hours you got. You times that by $13 an hour, and that gives you a number. Do not exclude anything. So the number includes overtime and regular hours. Do not exclude yourself if you were at two different essential worker jobs. Doesn't make a difference. Both the jobs qualify. There's nothing in here. Don't exclude yourself if you got PUA. Don't exclude yourself if you got EIDL or PPP. Don't exclude yourself if you're a subscriber to this channel and you like pizza with pepperoni on it. Don't exclude yourself for anything. It hasn't paid. It has no exclusions in it. It really has no exclusions in it. That's what's great. There is really only two. There's only two thresholds for hazard pay, which are important to remember. First, if you made in 2019 over $100,000, the most you can get for hazard pay is a lump sum of $5,000. So I'll repeat that again. If you made over $100,000 in 2019, you will only get a lump sum of $5,000. If you made less than $100,000 in 2019, you can get up to $10,000. The way the payments are done are you take those calculations from the past up to the present. If you get to those thresholds, bam, you're entitled to that lump sum. If you're not at the threshold yet, don't worry. You'll get a lump sum for what you've got to yet. And then going forward, you'll get $13 an hour on top of that. So, and don't worry if you're laid off, fired, furloughed, early retirement, any of those horrible things, you still get the benefits. Last, and the most there's always something bad, and I have to report the good and the bad. The bad part is the application process. We don't know who's going to do it. We don't know where it's going to be done. We don't know what it's going to be called. We don't know where it would be processed. But we do know the following things. The way the bill is currently written, it proposes that the employer, not you, applies for hazard pay. I don't like it. Viewers of this channel don't like it. I don't know anyone that likes it. It says the employer applies for you. The language of this congressional document I was going over moments ago, it actually, I'm not going to read through it again, but it says somewhere in there, the employer shall or should, which is great there, but it's not enough. Shall or should are basically words that say they should but don't have to. And it does say in other parts of the provision, it says they don't have to. And it says if they don't do it, there's no recourse against the employer for not doing it. I don't like that. I don't like that. This channel has detailed the Romney Plan, introduced by Mitt Romney, shortly around the same time. It's ostensibly the same bill. The amount of money is a little bit less. I think it's on $12 an hour, $11 an hour instead of $13 an hour. But the part that's better is that it requires the employer to apply for you. What's also good is that it gives the employer money to go through the process. I've done this calculation with you, and I basically said as the bugs start to pick up, it's a hot summer afternoon here in LA, that, there's a lot of bookkeeping involved with this. This is a lot of bookkeeping. And once the employer goes through the calculation and figures the numbers of hours, and they got to apply to the U.S. government, get the money for you, send you the money, you may no longer work with them, you may be furloughed, they got to fine you. I just think it's a lot of work for the employer to do, and any employer who's lazy, which we all know a lot of employers are lazy, won't do it. And so they won't do it, but they will do it on the Romney Plan because they get an incentive. They get something back financially. And I'm not going to go into the detail, but what's important is they get something back. Getting something back is a reason for the employer to do it, and also a provision that says you must do it. That's an additional reason. Ultimately, what's great is that FEMA, through the Robert Stafford Disaster Response and Emergency Act, as I put the script in the front of the screen, boy, I'm messing up badly today, calls for disaster relief like hazard pay throughout all of this country's existence. Hazard pay is not unusual. It's not different. And ultimately what's going to happen is you're going to hear members of Congress vote on this come late July. The vote will come later, probably around August 8th. It's part of the second stimulus package. It's one of several things that they need to vote on. As this channel has detailed, Republicans have been silent about it. I don't like silence. I don't know if that means they don't support it or they do support it. It's not like FPUC, it's not like UI, where the Republicans or Steve Mnuchin have said stuff about it. This one they haven't. And I gotta tell you, I'm not being political here, but it's political suicide if you have lockdowns, you have unemployment, you have people risking their lives to work at jobs, as grocery store workers, nurses, all those types of businesses, and you say, sorry, I'm not helping you. You just had to do your job anyway. Who cares? I don't really care about you. You know, you're just doing your work and I'm not going to give you extra money. You're going to create a welfare state. Oh boy. That shows a lack of understanding of the situation. It shows an inept working of a political official. It shows an inability to grasp the severity of the situation. And ultimately, if any politician on either political side does that when it comes to hazard pay, they're going to see themselves on the curb come election day. This is one of those bills, hazard pay, that there's really no excuse not to support. If you have questions in today's video, drop them in the comments below. Coming up later today, more Second Stimulus Check and Second Stimulus Check videos. As always, stay with LALATE for more.